Okay. All set.
All right, it's 7:01. We're going to call it to order. Myself, Christine Ressler, and Mr. Canning are here, along with guests Dr. Williams and Mr. Manley.
Okay, no old business. We'll jump into the new business with questions on the bills.
No, I went through them.
No questions on the bills for me.
Okay, okay with that. Any issues with the deposits or impress?
Nope, looks good.
We don't have any over 5,000 POs. Anything as far as the CDS goes? Pretty standard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we'll jump
Hold on,
in.
I do have a question
Yeah,
on
sure.
that CDS. That's grant, right?
Yes.
That's, okay.
Yes,
That's
it's all grant, correct.
Yes, gotcha, okay.
Mhm. With that, we will jump into Dr. Williams with her evaluations.
All right.
Which one do you want first, Corey? This one?
Yeah, that's fine. So we had a teacher team and the DEC team and the administrative team looked at some evaluation softwares. We started with the administrative team, and I had representatives from each building in every position, from principal all the way down to athletic director, dean, so that we could get a nice representative of each position that would be using the software. We started with 4 products. Prior to that, I had looked at 2 or 3 others on top of that, but I didn't feel that they would have served us well, so I didn't bring them to the table. The admin team pared the 4 pieces of software down to 2, Evaluwise and Decision Ed. Right around, I think it was like 2 days before spring break, I brought the 2 groups together because they had kind of split votes, you know, in terms of they liked different things about each product. So brought the 2 groups together and had them kind of talk it through and come up with a decision. So Evaluwise is the product that both teams have chosen to move forward with. What you see here is actually the dashboard. When a teacher logs in, this is what they will see. Now these are just samples of things that have been loaded. These aren't our actual forms. These are just mock-ups of some items. This has already been submitted, so we can't go in there, but basically our pre-conference form would be loaded so the teacher can go right in here and answer their planning conference questionnaire, and then they'll submit it for the observer to view. In terms of classroom observation, we can go in. Here's an example of scripted notes. So right now, the observer does this through an Excel spreadsheet. They basically type everything that's going on in the classroom, what the teacher says and does, and what the students say and do. And then they go back and they actually align it to the framework. So the teacher will have access, just like they do now through an Excel spreadsheet. They will be able to see everything that occurred in that particular lesson. Okay?
Now, you're saying that that's when an evaluator sits in the classroom?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Post-observation conference. So here's an example. This has not been submitted, so it's open. So we can go ahead. Now, again, this is not our questions that we will ask, but it'll be loaded with our questions. So what do you think went well in the lesson? The teacher can actually just type in here whatever they feel they want to say. They can save it and not submit it. Once they save and submit it, it goes to the observer for review. Okay.
Is it hooked into the observer that obviously is observing them?
Yes.
Okay,
So it's only tied to myself and whoever the teacher is,
Okay.
or if Tom's observing, so only those 2. Now the district level clearance, I'll be able to see everything,
Okay.
but only those 2 people that are connected will see
Okay.
the evaluation.
Gotcha.
Good question. Observation summary. Some school districts, they have an opportunity for teacher self-reflection. We don't necessarily do that, or self-rating. We don't do that in our system. But basically, the Danielson framework will be loaded here. All the evidence you'll see, like for example right here, this is scripted notes that's been coded to this particular component. This is 1A, demonstrating knowledge of content. So anything that the observer coded to 1A would show up here in terms of evidence. Can you see this says the word form here?
Mm-hmm.
There are questions on our planning conference questionnaire that are tied to specific components. So it'll automatically connect whatever the teacher wrote in the conference form will automatically be dumped in here. Okay? And then the observer can go through and say, all right, well, based upon all of my evidence, I feel that the teacher over here is excellent or proficient. And they can add, the teacher can add some additional evidence if needed.
Okay.
Okay? Artifacts. here's where the teacher and or observer, depending upon what the artifact is, can go in and select any type of file. It can be a GIF, a JPEG, so these are pictures, a Word document, a PowerPoint, pretty much anything and everything except for large files like videos.
Okay.
Okay, they can upload, select the file, and then in the notes, this is where in our current process we ask the teachers, take your artifact and tell me which component it goes to. So I would pick my file and I would say, you know what, this is an example of 2B because it demonstrates my culture for learning. So this is where they would put their rationale. So when I submit it, oops, I didn't select a file. It would show up, here's my file, and then it would tell me, I can go in and edit. It will tell me, here's what the teacher said. You know what? That's a great artifact for 2B, but it could also go to 2E, and I can add an additional place to put it and then save it. So all the artifacts that a teacher submitted would be identified here.
What do they do now?
A whole gambit
Okay,
of stuff.
so this is really going to reduce that workload that we've all heard so much complaints about, right?
If the teacher chooses to use it. So here's how we're going to approach it for next year is we're not going to mandate the teachers to use this. Okay, because we know technology is overwhelming for some, so we're going to take baby steps.
Okay.
Observers, absolutely, they're going to use the software because one of the things that we've been hearing from the observers, there's so much paperwork and it takes time to collate everything.
Right.
Everything will be done through the system.
Okay.
In terms of what the teacher will do, let's talk about artifacts. We have some teachers that use Dropbox.
Okay.
Which is basically, it's an online web-based, in essence, it's a folder. Just like I showed you how I can upload an artifact, I would upload it to Dropbox and it's saved in the cloud. But I have to share that with you, so that's another thing we have to log into. Some teachers and observers set up Google Drive, so they set up a Google folder to share. Some teachers do binders. Some teachers scan an email. So anything and everything. We're going to let the teachers decide how they want to upload the artifacts because we have some workarounds. So if Christine handed me an artifact, what I can do is I can scan it and upload it, or I can just link it and make some notes and some scripted evidence to attach it. So there's going to be some ways we can work around it. Those that are comfortable to use it, put everything right here. Same thing with the questionnaires. We're not going to mandate that the teachers answer the questionnaires. It's to their advantage, but certainly not mandatory. You can still take the Word document off the web page, answer it, send it to me, and then I can upload it as an artifact. Does that make sense? Okay.
But Core, the evaluators will all be utilizing this, so this will help them organize all the artifacts and everything for the teachers.
Yes, exactly. Observation summary. This will pull, now this is, again, it's a demo, so not everything is there, but it will pull all the evidence from all the observation and anything that was tied to each component so that they can deliver an overall summative rating. One of the things we'll be working on as well, you won't see it in here because there are very few districts that are actually doing the student growth model. But this software will actually link into Mastery Manager and pull the data out so that all the student growth data will also be done in here. Our student learning objective will upload as a form. Again, if teachers want to do it as the standalone Word document, they can, or they can do it right within Evaluize. In terms of what the observers look like, and I just noticed today they've been changing over, I just forgot what my password is.
You have like 400.
I know.
What is this, your demo thing?
This is, well, it was a demo, son of a gun. Oh, I wonder if it's still, there we go. This is what the observer will see. So this is their dashboard. So any teachers that I'll be observing, I'll have here. Any evaluations that I have open. And it will tell me which evaluations I have in progress, where I'm complete, if I have any informal evaluations. Right now, there's nothing. A couple weeks ago, I would have been able to show you the demo account, but because we're switching over to Evaluize, that demo account is gone. But down on the bottom, what it will do is it'll show me what's up and coming, what evaluations I have open. They're all color-coded. Green means I'm done. Orange means I'm in progress. Yellow, I need to get started, something like that.
And what do they do now? They just got to keep it in their head?
No, it's all on. We have a Word document for the evaluation itself,
Okay.
Excel spreadsheet for the scripted notes, then we have the separate SL. I mean, we have all these
So
different.
this is now, boom.
It's a one-stop
spot.
shop.
Wow, okay. That's got to alleviate a lot.
That's the plan. That is the plan.
Okay.
And then from an organization perspective, obviously I'll have access to all the evaluations so I can see and pull reports of, you know, do we have anything that's behind deadlines? You know, how many evaluations have been started? How many haven't been started? Once the evaluation cycle is over, we'll have that data to see where are teachers doing well, where are they struggling. All of that can be downloaded into an Excel spreadsheet. Then we can upload it into Decision Ed to start doing some, you know, more diagnostic reporting.
What is your time frame? From start to finish on an evaluation, Corey?
Depends
What are
on.
you guys looking for as far as a time frame?
Or the expectation.
Yeah, the expectations of.
Of the software? Of what?
No, I'm just talking about an evaluation at this point in time, where we're at right now. What is the expectations for them to have? And I know there's different components, okay?
Yeah.
So is that pretty much how it works? Okay, you gotta, submit this component in order to move on to the next one, or?
No, the components, they're not observed in order. They're
Okay.
observed all at once, in essence. So the evaluation process starts with the teacher saying, hey, I want you to come and observe me on such and such a date. So they drive the formal observation. They actually
Okay.
request when that will be.
Okay.
Once that's triggered, then the planning conference questionnaire gets done by the
Okay.
teacher. They agree on the specific period and day that they're going to come and do the observation. Then the observer actually goes and observes and does all the scripting. And then we have a specific timeline in terms of when that evidence is back to the teacher.
Mhm.
In the meantime, the teacher owes us a reflection questionnaire. But they
Okay.
give that to us once they see the scripted notes because we want them to use that as evidence for their reflection.
Okay.
So basically, for a formal observation from start to finish, it's a 15 to 20 day window.
Okay.
Can be less, but it can't be more, unless there's some extenuating circumstance and both the teacher and observer
Do you
agree
think
to
with this
extend.
new system, it's gonna be much less than 15 days?
It could be,
It could be, depending on the motivation of the individual doing the work, right?
yes, and the teacher too. So, that's a conversation. If Tom can say to me, you know what, Cora, I want to get my evaluation done by Christmas.
Okay.
Okay, if that's the goal, let's back up and figure out when do we need to start. And as long as we're passing our paperwork back and forth, we don't need to take 20 days. Maybe it'll take us 10.
Okay.
So there has to be some open communication between the teacher and the observer. So in the meantime, you've got this evaluation, this Danielson piece going on, but you also have a student growth model going on at the same time. So it's kind of coordinating those two different pieces.
What's our average, for our observers, what's our average amount of teachers that they observe?
Most positions, the average is 3 to 4. Some have 5. Occasionally, somebody has 6.
Okay,
But right around 4 is the
that's
average.
the average.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Cora, in terms of lesson plans from the teachers, do they still have to provide the week of lesson plans, or is it dependent on the conversations that they have with the evaluator? Because it used to be, I'm coming, give me your lesson plans for this week, and I'm going to come in when I feel like it, and you didn't know as the teacher.
Right.
And it was kind of a surprise and that whole thing. But that's all changed now. But in terms of lesson plans,
Yeah.
what is the responsibility of the teacher?
So it's 5 days. And the day of the actual observation, because the planning conference questionnaire is very specific to the class that we're going to see. Meaning it asks you, tell me about the kids in this class. What do you know about them? Their learning disabilities, where they are with their skills, what are you focusing on? What is it you're going to, or what am I going to see? So it's very specific. So the actual day of the observation, that lesson plan is very thorough. It's
Okay.
very extensive. But we also want to see 2 days before the lesson and 2 days after. And those lesson plans are kind of a modified. Your basic, give me your objective, your methods, your procedure, and your assessment. So it's a more scaled down version.
Okay.
But we want to see the totality of planning for a week.
Okay.
That's for the formal. The informal observation, there is no lesson plan. And the observer picks, and they give a 48-hour notice of the week they're going to come in and see them. So that's more like the old model
Yeah,
where
sure.
we pick, but at least you have a week's notice of when we're coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of pricing for this software, We decided to go with only a 1-year contract because we want to make sure that we're really satisfied with it before we commit to a multi-year.
Right. But they gave it a 3-year price, I see, huh?
They did. And in the meantime, Tom was able to negotiate the price down from the original 1 year. So instead of paying the $24.95 per teacher, it's $19.95 per teacher.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So the cost for the software is just under $6,700 for the year, and then there'll be some PD thrown in. We'll do a full day training that we can break up how we see fit for teachers. We have a free 4-hour webinar.
Is that where they're charging us the $2,000 for the training?
That's the training. Yep, on site, working with teachers.
Right.
And then the webinar we can use going forward.
Okay.
Okay.
And you said you had there was 2 groups and they both, the consensus was to go with this one?
Yes.
Okay. By a consensus of what? Everybody agreed?
The whole group, both sides.
Okay.
And the groups included, you said teachers and
Yes.
staffs from all 4 of the schools?
Yes. So it's the DEC representatives from each of the buildings, and then
Administrators.
administrators from all 4 schools.
Okay, because they're the observers.
Yep.
And they were good with this, right?
Yes.
Oh. Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
Any other questions?
No, sounds great.
I think this is a great step.
I do
to helping with our problem here.
Yes,
So,
I do
good.
too. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot for
You're welcome.
hanging around.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
This was again the the proposal, and was able to work with the sales vendor to get them to understand, look, our board is interested in this, but we don't want to pay for a long-term commitment. We anticipate that this is going to work out well, and
Yeah.
then it'll end up being a long-term commitment, but we don't want to pay for that up front as a result of not doing it. And so I was able to work that in and work in the fact that Corey works with all of our feeder groups, and they're always looking to us for the lead on things. And I said, if this goes well, which we anticipate it to do, then we're going to be recommending this to other groups. And so I was able to get that salesman off of that, stuck on that, 1 year differential.
That's great.
And they had already gotten a call from one of the other feeder groups who was interested. So,
There
it
you
just
go.
the leverage all came together, and we were able to save that. And then we was able to get this, webinar thrown in there as well. So, and we saved a couple $1,000.
So the
Through that.
$19.95, that's the price if it were a 3-year contract, or 3?
It is, yes.
Okay, so that's what we can project, that if we do like it, that's what we're gonna end up paying for 3 years.
Well, we'll work on that a little bit.
Okay.
That's our rate this year.
Okay,
That's our rate
Right,
that
but-
we're going to be paying for the upcoming year.
Yes.
right.
That is only offered currently right now to, and I researched it, the other groups that are on the 3-year
Right.
contracts. Everybody else who's not is paying the
20.
$24.99. So,
And
again,
this
a
comes
little
from-
negotiations
Or if
always.
this, and if the board approves this will come out of, is it the technology budget, or which?
We will build this into the technology budget for next year. We're hoping to offset some of that, if not all of it, with some title funding.
Okay.
We're going to be taking it out of the FY17 budget.
Mhm.
The professional development piece we may have to pay upfront out of this budget because we need to line that up, and we're already into May.
Mhm.
And we need to do that before the end of the school year and set that up with the teachers and get them started on that training right away. But the upfront cost of the licensing, we're going to pay out of FY17, and we're hoping to get a good chunk of that out of the title dollars, if not all of it. But it's going to be, to answer your question, in the technology.
Are they going to have access, they being the teachers, are they going to have access, I see the webinar, to mess around with this over the summer on their own and kind of get familiar with it before their formal
Yeah,
training
good
or
question.
whatever?
I believe that they will.
Okay.
And once we finalize the purchase, they'll create the licenses, and everybody will
Get their passwords.
get their
and all
information
that.
to go
Okay.
in there and test drive it.
Okay.
And I think, you know, a lot of the people that'll be, it's going to be driven based on who's being evaluated next year as well. So if I'm being evaluated next year, I'm going to be anxious to make sure
Yes.
I get in there and see what this is all about.
Yeah.
Versus if I have 2 years out,
Yeah.
then, you know, it might be towards the end of next year before I start getting into
It'd be nice for them to be able to get in there, feel it out before they get back into the building.
Right.
You know what I mean? The
Sure.
unknown is always
And that's the
spooky
goal of
for-
that professional development. We're going to offer, you know, that to whoever wants to sign up for it initially for the upcoming year, and give them that training and that
That's great,
development with the software before they have to, you know, jump right into the evaluation process.
So that training and this software, will that be in like September this year?
Mhm.
Or
That'll
you do it-
take place by the end of the year, on the summer.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, because I was.
Prior to the start of next school year.
Oh, so it's gonna happen over the summer or before the end of the school year?
She's going to finalize that, talk to the vendor, Corey is, and find out when we can get the trainers in. But the goal is to get it in place before the start of
Okay.
next school year.
And the only reason why I asked is because I think some of the comments were that, you know, teachers were spending their summers working on their evaluations or gathering the artifacts. So I just wasn't sure if teachers were gonna be doing that this summer still, or if they can hold off on that and wait until, you know, the software gets launched.
Yeah, and I wouldn't think, unless they're really go-getters, that they need to spend any time this summer
Okay.
working on gathering artifacts for next year's evaluation.
Okay.
You know, that typically wouldn't be the case.
Okay, good to know.
Is this compatible with our decision ed that we approved? With the, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I
Tom?
do know exactly what you're talking about. I think we're on two ends of the spectrum. The decision ed is, well, there's
Well, it's a
probably
data
is a way to
collection
link
software.
this. Yeah. I just don't know specifically what data you'd
I
be
know, I should
linking.
have asked Corey, I'm sorry.
Didn't she say that it would download and then she would then take the download of this into Decision Ed? I thought I heard her say something about downloading something from here and then uploading into Decision Ed, or maybe it was vice versa.
Yeah, I'm not 100% positive on that.
Because Decision Ed was where we were going to capture all the data from the different
Correct.
databases
Yes.
out there, right? So I would hope that this could also be captured by Decision Ed, you know? It would make
Yeah.
sense, right?
It would make sense, yeah.
Do that. I'm sure it probably is. I don't think.
Well, that's a question, you know, I can ask and follow up and put some information in the
Yeah, that's-
memo to the board for the board packet.
Thank you.
Tom, how long was this on the table, this particular software? Was this something that's been in the works for a long time to come in, or was this to kind of alleviate some of these issues that we've all had with Danielson?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think there has been talk about software for some time.
Okay.
But I think, you know, after more people have experienced the evaluation process,
Right.
they came to the decision that, yeah,
We
a
need
software
a-
product would be
okay.
beneficial for all parties involved.
Okay.
So, you know, I know they've been working on this, the deck's been working on this year to try and come to a decision with this.
Oh, I hate this chair, man.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
get it.
Chair.
Watch this.
All right, so the committee is good with recommending the software to the board.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to the technology items. These are components that will be baked into the technology budget, but because of timeliness of these items, we want to give the information to the board and make sure the board is good with moving forward on these items, because Mr. Donato needs to line some of these things up now to get these things going once the summer, you know, comes into play, and we need to get all this information moving forward and get all the the timelines and the schedules and things worked out. So one of the three things that is being recommended this year, and this is no different than every year, we do some major technology components each year so that we stay current with our technology and we stay on top of things. And I think our technology staff has done a great job with these things, especially when you compare the size of our staff to many other districts. There's not any excess in terms of staff, so they get a lot done. But we're looking at computer replacements for this summer coming out of the FY17 budget, and that includes a major lab in each of the 4 buildings as well as mini labs, and these would be our oldest computers. So it's just kind of, they reach their useful life and now we're cycling through and we replace the oldest ones. So we're looking at 245 computer replacements, and the cost per replacement is $277 per computer. And just to refresh the committee, we utilized refurbished computers, so we don't go out and buy new. That's a process that we've been doing now. I think Jim and I put that into place about 4 years ago, and it's worked out well because you're not paying that premium price for a brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing is that these machines are warranted for the course that we have them for, which is 5 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the average life?
Yeah, the average life cycle that we
5.
expect is 5 years
Okay.
for these. And so in total, we're looking at a cost of $67,384 to take care of replacing those
And that's in our
labs.
technology budget.
That's in our technology budget, yes. And we haven't finalized that budget yet. These items that we're talking about are 3 components of the budget, but again, in initial preliminary workings of the technology budget, I'm projecting that technology budget for FY17 is going to be on par with where we were at for this year. So even though we're doing these new things, we're not looking to increase that technology budget. We're looking to maintain that budget as we move forward to next year.
Okay.
And that will also include the cost for the iPads, the one-to-one devices for the incoming freshman class, as well
Yeah,
as
right.
cases and things of that nature. The next piece is the firewall upgrade. So this is shared by all 5 of our buildings, and it runs through all the internet connections for all the buildings run through one firewall. And we're looking to upgrade that firewall with Timpani to accommodate the need that we have with our bandwidth for one-to-one, and make sure that we're providing, a situation where we have enough speed, but also that we're providing a secure environment. So you can see here that we're quadrupling our internet speed at a lower cost, and the firewall will also be able to operate at these much higher speeds. Our current one is not able to keep up. It's not going to be able to keep up with the internet connections moving forward.
Was that the one that we put in place when we put the routers in the building just a couple of years ago?
I think there's two things that were going on. One is the infrastructure for the wireless. So that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about our firewall, which is really our security from having kids get into things from the outside that they're not supposed to.
Okay.
And our current one is functioning, but as we add more and more one-to-one, and with the changes in technology, we need to upgrade our firewall as we move forward. So that, again, when you're trying to get into a site, that firewall is analyzing that site and it's saying, yes, this is an acceptable site per the permissions of District 228, and now you can access that site quickly.
Okay.
So
that had nothing to do with the infrastructure. I think it was like 150 grand or something like that. Or no, it was almost $500,000, wasn't it?
Two separate things. You're talking about wireless infrastructure for connectivity and access to the internet. Okay. Now this is a firewall that secures and locks down our internet from people getting into, sites that are not educational
Right.
and sites that we don't want them to be involved
What's
in.
the cost of the firewall today that we have, or
That's a good question. Because we're on a renewal,
what did we pay last time for it?
yeah, I'd have to go back and check the exact price of that.
I was just trying to compare it to this.
Sure.
This
Yeah, no,
projected cost.
that's a good question, and I will get that information.
When would we be looking at having to do a new firewall, Tom? Is this something like, how technology can be obsolete in 6 months? You know what I mean? Or
No, we're anticipating this one to last about 5 years now with this new technology.
really?
Yeah.
okay, that's good.
So I think the one that we're on is maybe 3 or 4 years old right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
So
So the
this one-
life of
this
it
one should-
is about 5 years, right?
roughly, I would say yes, in that 5-year range.
And by that time, we should have all the kids on iPads. Then we would have had.
Right, exactly. Yet next year will be our second year of implementation of the
Sophomores and freshmen will
one-to-one.
have 'em,
Right, and then when it's time for a new firewall, yeah, everybody will pretty
have a
much
better
be
idea.
there,
Mhm.
right. And then the third item is our server upgrades. And this was something we pushed last year when it was going to take place for our one-to-one initiative, and we split the server infrastructure into 2 parts, the schools and the administration center. The schools were closer to capacity and a little bit reduced in terms of their computing power. So they were given priority for replacement this year. So this would be kind of the second phase of that, replacing the ad center server infrastructure for next year. So each school would have 1 server that would be replaced with the newer model and more storage for additional power is what we're looking to do. And the cost of this project is about $32,000.
Yeah, we got a bunch of high-priced items.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, absolutely. But in total, like I said, we're still looking to be within that budget range of where we were last year. It's not like we're looking to add these large costs onto what our budget figure was for last year.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just gonna, we don't buy as many textbooks anymore, right?
We've scaled back the number
I
of
know
textbooks.
we're going electronic textbook,
Right.
so that's still gonna cost us there.
It is.
But do we see an actual savings, Tom?
Not
From
yet.
Paper to electronic?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
And the reason for that is the curriculums are shifting more towards that digital one. The
Okay.
companies are now getting fully implemented into the game. It's taken them a little while to do that. And our departments, depending on the department, is looking, in some cases, they're creating their own digital curriculum. So it's not a textbook that we would have to buy. It wouldn't be licensing that we would need, but they're creating their own so that we can implement that in the future.
Okay.
So there's going to definitely be a savings generated when we get to that.
Right.
We're not there yet, but as we get all levels of our students with the one-to-one devices, then I foresee that coming down the pipe in the next few years, where we're going to see some savings.
Okay.
You're still going to have the licensing costs for the digital textbooks,
Right.
but it's not. I don't see it at the level that we pay now if we were to replace a biology textbook at
Right.
$175 a crack. I don't see it at that level.
Okay.
And if we don't upgrade the servers, what are the ramifications to the students?
Yeah, I think as storage lags, then the power of the system starts to slow down, the efficiency slow down, and it starts causing technical complications with what
So they'll
goes
have
on.
trouble connecting to the internet or storing, or
It-
things will run a
It
lot
could,
slower.
yes.
And then at that point, what's the point of having an iPad?
Right, and that's the thing with that, we made sure, you know, the one piece of that was good to go this year. So, and we've had no issues with that, you know, connectivity and the speed and the access of being able to use the internet and the resources.
We invested a lot. in that.
Yes, we have, and that's gone pretty seamlessly. So that's basically what we want to do
Which I
is
think was a great investment,
maintain
yeah.
that. We needed to do it. And districts that don't do the initial front end investment are the ones that run into problems, and then it just becomes almost to a point where teachers get frustrated and they don't want to use it.
They
It's
can't
like this
get
is
on
more
what they wanna
headaches
do.
than you know, any benefit that I'm getting from the tool.
Okay.
So we okay
I'm good.
as far as that
I'm
goes?
good.
Yeah. It's just an investment that you have to, yeah, it's our technology investment.
Right.
It's what it is.
And this last one is our mobile device management software. And again, you can see there, as we are in our second year, we're looking to upgrade our management software. And that, currently we use Apple, what they provided for us, and that was a free component. But now as we get into other things and additional devices, what they provided to us for free isn't going to work efficiently moving forward. So we want to make sure that we're, you know, you look at the 28 devices that we're going to have student-wise, we don't want to have system issues that I was just referring to. So they've talked to other districts. We've done our research on what's best in terms of managing all these devices, pushing all these apps out to all of them, setting all these things up, and the technology department has selected this Casper. It's a JAMF software, and they've gotten various quotes on this for what would be fully scalable for our situation to host that software and be able to manage all those devices on our existing system. And we're looking at a little over $29,000 in terms of being able to do that.
What did Apple tell us, Tom? I mean, as far as when we went and purchased and went with their device, okay, did
Yeah.
they say it was going to be adequate, what they were providing
Well,
for free, or did we know that?
Yeah,
Did we know that we were going to have a $30,000 bill after we purchased the iPads?
We did. We had some indicators that, yeah, down the line, as we expanded things, as we opened up our app situation to students and to teachers, and to provide all the different components, Notability, and all these other apps that these students are using along with the teachers, we knew that we were going to have some additional need for a management system. What Apple was going to provide us was going to get us up and running, and there wasn't going to be a cost. And if we didn't have all these other apps and those kinds of things tied to it, then that
Free.
product would serve
Adequate.
us. But that's not the case. I mean, with technology now, it's constantly growing. They're constantly adding new things. Apps are being created. Kids are coming up with apps that they're finding, they're introducing, and we're, you know, we saw it at a board meeting. You know, Richie came up from Bremen. Dr. Kendall said, "Find me an app," and he went out and he found it. And then we incorporated that into the package of apps that we were managing on the devices. So as that continues to grow, what Apple was providing to us for free is not going to be sufficient, you know, to
So
do.
the software, sorry. I didn't
Yeah, sure.
So the software that Apple was providing, it only supported Apple apps, or what do you mean by multiple devices or multiple? I guess I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah, it was limited in the capabilities of what it could do.
Okay.
It could manage the devices in the sense of do the setup, do the administration of all the devices, do the tracking of all the devices. It created you with the capabilities of Christine lost her iPad, then the Apple's product would allow us the ability to go in and wipe it or shut it down or lock it out. So there was some management capabilities. We still need those capabilities, but now as you get into pushing out all these different applications and making sure that they work with our servers and our technology that we have in the district, that's where there's the need to expand what we have. To make sure that Notability properly works with our networks and the students while they're using it, wirelessly, along with any other app that we may push out to them, per teacher recommendation. And it's going to vary by department as well, because they're going to use different apps. So you might have one student now that has an iPad that may have, 10 different apps, all each one related to a different course, or 2 of them per course, kind of a thing. So this mobile device management system will allow us to manage all of those things on top of managing each of the devices that are Apple devices.
Okay, so if I have an iPad and Larry has an iPad and I've got 10 apps because of the classes that I have, and Larry has 20 apps because he decides he wants to download Snapchat or something like that on
Right.
his app, this software is going to do what to our iPads?
It's going to, number one, allow us the abilities to load all those apps to Christine. Okay, so here's Christine's schedule. She has these 5 classes. She needs these 12 apps. It's going to allow us to push all those apps to your device, so that now when you log on, you're ready to go. It's going to have all that stuff ready to go for you, and it's going to be able to manage all those different intricacies that are going to continue to expand as we move forward.
So you're pushing the apps that are required by our courses.
Are required by our courses, and again, at times teachers may bring in apps and the supervisor may say, yeah, that's an acceptable app, so that'll be another thing. And that may come, midway through the quarter. A group of students say, hey, Ms. Ressler, this would be a really cool app for our class, and you look at it and you go, yeah, I agree, and then talk to technology and okay, boom, and then make that happen so that the students have access to those apps.
Okay.
It's through our wireless infrastructure as well.
Okay, I get it.
So as we bring more iPads into the schools, right? Because like you said, we're going to have the new freshman crop. They'll have them. Our sophomores have them. Are we going to continually run into this problem?
No,
I have to. You know what I mean?
It's a great question, and the answer is no. I mean, this software that we're going to be purchasing is going to be able to manage next year and as we move forward the expansion of those kinds of things as well.
Yeah, because it seems funny that we just started. We had our rollout last year, and now we're maxed out of the free software that Apple gives.
Well, and we're not maxed out of it. It's just we want to expand what we want to do, and as we get into expanding things, you're limited in terms of what that
with
has.
their free package.
Right.
Okay, I got you.
That's where it comes in.
Okay. So we can be more creative. Our teachers can be more creative with the apps that they want to use in a classroom with taking on this software.
That's my understanding. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right.
So we okay with this one?
I'm good.
Price of technology.
I have one item, because I finalized pricing, one item for new business under other, and that is the driver ed cars. Annually in the summer, we contract out for the driver ed cars that our students utilize to take driver ed over the course of the summer. I worked with Homewood Chevrolet, who we've had for the last 3 years. They've been a great group to partner with. When we moved to them, we had a considerable savings per vehicle from what we were doing before. So I'm recommending to the Finance Committee that we continue with them. We're going to have 21 cars that we're going to be leasing this summer. That's up 1 from last year because of more students signing up for the driver ed for this summer. the cost per car, and that includes the lease, that includes the installation of the safety brake for the instructor, as well as the removal of the safety brake. The cost per car is $295 per car. So times 21 cars, that comes to $6,195. It's up a little bit from last year. Last year, we were, I think, $283 per car. So in total, we're about $535 up from what we paid last year. But still, in comparison to where we were before, I mean, it's a significant savings.
How long is the lease for these cars?
It's a 1 month lease.
It's a 1 month lease.
1
okay.
month, right. So they have to have, I believe, 20 days of behind the wheel instruction. So that runs, during the month of June, and then cars go back in July.
Well, a lot of that cost is offset by the fee that we charge our students, right? So
Yeah,
you have to pay the instructor, obviously hourly.
Right.
And then you have to pay for the lease. So are we pretty much, how do we come out? Are we on
Yeah,
top of that or are we under it?
We don't break even. We end up in the
Losing?
end, it's a loser.
Okay.
By the time you pay the staff.
Yeah.
And then if there's any issues in terms of damages to cars and things of that nature, then
we're responsible.
yeah, we're responsible for the cost for those as well.
Are we close, Tom?
Yeah. You know what? I'll put together. I have a spreadsheet that I did in the past.
It's just curiosity. Don't. Put
Yeah,
anything
districts. I mean, we would be
I just
better
want-
off if we didn't have to provide this and it was all contracted out.
I thought that was going to go the way of that, to be honest.
That was something that the governor
years
proposed to kind of relieve districts
Yeah.
of some of the unfunded mandates.
Right.
But that hasn't gone anywhere yet. It's been discussed, but there's been nothing that has come to fruition in terms of that action has been taken on that.
What do you foresee in the future?
That's a tough one, to look in the crystal ball. Personally, if that were to happen, I would prefer that for us from a fiscal standpoint. If we didn't have to worry about that anymore, it would definitely be a help. It's not going to be a huge, significant help, but it would be some cost that we wouldn't have to worry about absorbing
Our
as a
insurance,
district.
right?
Right.
On those
Sure.
vehicles.
Yeah,
with the
we have
kids
to
and
insure
all
those
that.
vehicles, the kids, and the big cost is the compensation of the driver ed staff.
Yeah.
Your employee, and that's
What is that, like
that's
30,
good.
35 bucks
It's
an
good.
hour or something
It's
like
to be
that?
$34 an hour this summer
For the instructor.
for the instructor.
It's
Correct.
a nice little summer job for somebody.
It is. It
That's
works
good.
out nice, and that's a nice.
Wives, no wives. Have the 15 and 16-year-old
God
kids.
love it.
Yeah.
I don't know, $35.
You know how nervous I am?
You
when
have
my
to
kids
have the
now
right-
driving them.
Right mindset to get behind the wheel.
That's a big deal.
I
$35.
don't have an emergency brake in my
No,
vehicle.
you
It's
don't.
like, holy cow,
You
Eric.
got fingernail prints in your dashboard, but
Yeah, that's
oh yeah.
all right.
So that would be my recommendation to the committee. If the committee's okay, then we'll recommend that to the full board. 21 cars from Homewood Chevrolet.
It's 21.
21 cars, correct.
Okay.
All right, I have one thing under discussion for the committee, and that is looking towards the future for additional consolidation for the finance department here at the administration center. And I'll just give you a little bit of historical. When we endeavored to take on the iVision software that we currently utilize, one of the things that I'd stated to the finance committee back then, and I think it was 2012, was that as we move into the future, we're going to be able to reduce staff because of the capabilities of the software. And so last year,
You took one out, right?
correct.
There was one.
Last year in 14-15, we had 2 staff members retire from the finance department,
Right.
and I was able to consolidate their roles and responsibilities
Mhm. I
into
remember that, yeah.
the existing staff. So we went from 4 staff members, not counting myself, at the Ed Center down to 3 staff members. Now, unfortunately, we lost one of our team members, and it was a difficult time for us. But my assistant was then able to step into that role after the death of Gail, who was in charge of the accounts payable and the imprest. And she did it, as an emergency situation. And then her and I had some conversations and discussions, and I said, okay, well, we're going to look at getting somebody in from the outside to assist. And as she did the job for a time period, she became very affluent with the position. And so I talked to Dr. Kendall about the situation, and we said, okay, what I made sure I didn't want to do was overburden her to a point where, she was stressed out and couldn't do the job. But Brittany, with her skill sets, she's really astute in terms of technology, particularly picked up the eye visions better than anybody that I've seen in our district pick it up.
Okay.
And she's done a phenomenal job with that. And so one of the things that Dr. Kendall's going to be talking to the full board during closed session on next Tuesday is the recommendation or the consideration of the board to, again, consolidate down. So we're looking at going from where we were at 3, and instead of replacing somebody in the accounts payable position that Gail held, we're looking to consolidate Brittany's roles into that position as well. And we feel very confident in our abilities to do that, and we feel not only would we not lose a step, but we could also save considerable dollars in doing so. So that's something that I just wanted to, kind of give you an overview of that will be coming for closed session next Tuesday.
So you got 3 now? What are you talking about, going to 2?
Well, we had 3, and
Right.
then in January, our accounts payable person who was battling cancer lost her battle with cancer, and so we've had 2 since then.
Right.
We've had
So you're saying not fill that position?
not fill that position. What we would consider then is doing a title change to Brittany Kinder, who was my assistant, who's now been doing the role of my assistant along with the accounts payable. We do a title change for that. The board would consider some monetary offset.
Because increased workload.
Increased workload, and the net result would still be a significant savings to the district, if that's the direction that the board wants to go in.
I don't see any problem with that.
We're looking at between a $50,000 and $60,000 annual savings, and this is in line with, again, where I had the vision when we were looking at this software. Each year, as we be able to become more familiar with and implement the software more efficiently, I foresaw the ability to shrink staff. Now, this came suddenly and unexpectedly, unfortunately, but it's something that I feel confident we would have the ability to move forward with and not lose anything in terms of what we're providing now throughout the district in terms of services and things of that nature. And it's not going to impact any other staff members. It'll have some impact on me. There's some things now that I'm doing myself now that I normally would have Brittany do, but it's not anything at a capacity where it would justify having the need for another person. So that's something that Dr. Kendall will talk to the board about next Tuesday, but I just wanted to kind of give you a little heads up and prep you on that situation.
For that,
So. Do we have any other discussion items? That's all I have.
No, I don't.
I don't.
Ms. Ross?
I'm good. All right, we're gonna go ahead and adjourn at,
Look
looks
at
like
this.
7:55.
All right.
All right.